Ahead on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
We'll take a trip overseas and show you how U.S. beef is gaining ground in the Middle East. Plus, we head to the R.A. Brown Ranch in Texas for more on managing generational transfers.
And now, NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. Topping our show this week, a bipartisan group of U.S. representatives has introduced legislation to prohibit the Environmental Protection Agency from disclosing the private and confidential information of livestock producers to the public. The Farmer Identity Protection Act comes in response to the EPA's release of livestock producers' names and other personal information to three radical environmental groups through Freedom of Information Act requests in 2013. The hope is the bill can help protect the health and safety of cattle producers and their families.
We had a problem with that just a little over a year ago, where EPA released a lot of sensitive information about producers to activist groups who really mean our industry harm. We cannot afford to have that happen. There's a lot of ways that these activist groups can find our operations. The last thing we need, though, is for the EPA to draw them a map on how to find feedlots. So this act is a great step to make sure that we are protecting that very sensitive information.
I don't know any of my colleagues that can support the kind of actions that have taken place around the country when people are threatening not just the lives, but the livelihoods of people who are doing their very best to produce good, healthy food for Americans.
NCBA hopes all cattle producers will take their time to let their elected officials know how you feel about the Farmer Identity Protection Act. Just go to the website, beefusa.org, and there you'll find a link to information on how to contact your members of Congress. U.S. beef exports set a record in 2013, and while Asia remains a strong center of demand for U.S. beef, you may be surprised to learn that countries in the Middle East are also key export customers. Brian Baxter has more from Dubai.
There were acres of exhibits at the 2014 Gulf Food Show in Dubai, where U.S. beef had a strong presence. Gulf Food draws a huge crowd of food buyers and importers from around the world.
There's over 80,000 people attend this show. It's a 5-day event, and I believe there are people from 152 countries. It was an amazing experience.
The U.S. Meat Export Federation hosted a team of U.S. beef and grain producers, seeing not only the Gulf Food Show, but also getting a flavor for life in Dubai and visiting retailers where U.S. beef competes with product from Australia, Brazil, and other parts of the world.
Oh, the growth potential in the United Arab Emirates is amazing. It's tremendous. And a lot of the folks that come here, tourists and business tourism, they all focus on wanting that U.S. steak. And that's the muscle meats that we're trying to move. So I think this is a tremendous market for U.S. beef, and we need to continue to expand this as much as we can.
They want a high quality product right now with the HRI sector, with a lot of the high-end hotels. So we want to make sure we get into that, but we also want to make sure that we bring in maybe some of the lesser value cuts, the underutilized, that we can get this whole cross section of the Middle East to be able to enjoy U.S. product.
Though competition is fierce, the U.S. Meat Export Federation, with support from the Beef Checkoff, is working to grow the market for U.S. beef in Dubai and the rest of the Middle East.
It's continuing to evolve, but with the projected growth that they're saying that we're going to see here in the Middle East, this is definitely a market we need to be cognizant of and we need to be a part of. And I think that we are with the people that we have here and MEF.
USMEF is unique in these markets. When you get to know the folks, the staff that USMEF has in these countries, that they're the boots on the ground moving our U.S. beef product into these markets.
I just wish any local producers that are hesitant at all about this checkoff, I mean, if they could come to one of these shows and see how this sells our U.S. beef. It's just a true eye-opener.
The export market returns nearly $245 a head. That's a tremendous value to U.S. beef producers, and the message that I think we need to carry back home and relay how hard their checkoff is working for them overseas.
In fact, Dubai and the Middle East nations are now among the highest volume markets for U.S. beef, ranking 4th in 2013. And the trend appears likely to continue with growing populations and incomes in this region of the world. In Dubai, I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
Joining us now for a closer look at beef exports is Dan Hallstrom from the U.S. Meat Export Federation. Dan, recently you were at the Gulf Food Show in Dubai. How does USMEF use an event like this to build demand for U.S. beef?
Well, I think if you look at Gulf Food, it's one of the largest food shows in the world, over 80,000 attendees at the show. So it's an opportunity to showcase U.S. beef. The attributes tell our story. But aside from that, it's also a chance to see the competition. And being a global food show, it attracts people from not only the Middle East region, but Russia, Europe, Asia. So truly, we had the entire world at this event. And consequently, the entire world's competitors are at the event. So we saw everyone from Australian beef to Indian beef to Kenyan beef and quite a few more in addition to that. So it's a good opportunity to really tell our story to the world.
You know, oftentimes when you're on the show, we talk about places like Japan and Korea, but I've also heard you talk about opportunities in countries like Egypt and the United Arab Emirates. Tell us what you perceive to be the opportunities for U.S. beef in those countries and how they differ. Well,
they're distinctly different. Egypt, I'll start with them. They're one of our oldest markets in the Middle East, but a very slow developing, I'd say immature market. It is our largest destination for beef at about $160 million a year ago, but it's highly skewed towards the variety meats, livers, kidneys, things like this. The fascinating piece of development there is that we're starting to see the emergence of primal cuts. And about $30 million worth were primal cuts last year, and this is everything from high-end middles to low-end utility-grade cow meat that's starting to emerge in the marketplace. Heel meat's another item, so that's exciting. You fast forward to United Arab Emirates, it's a very sophisticated market, very high-end food service driven, and once again you see the range of cuts, everything from chuck rolls being ground for high-end patties to high-end middle meats for white tablecloth dining. So the exciting thing that we're new in this market relative to some of our competitors, so there's quite a bit of opportunity for growth.
And as you think about some of the activities that USMEF does in those countries, maybe give our viewers a perspective of what you're doing to build demand.
Well, I think boots on the ground is one of the keys, and we have staff over in that region in Egypt as well as the UAE and Jordan and a few other places. So we have a presence along with our exporter members that constantly have a presence in that region. So I think that's important on developing our name, developing our brand. And explain what's different about U.S. beef. I mean, we have that high-end grain-fed rich taste. It's much different than some of our competitors. You know, what is grain feeding? What is grading? Something as simple as that. We take those things for granted here. They don't understand in a lot of these places. So education is a big part of what we do. What you see in the form of promotions, at whether it be food service or retail, that's a result of a lot of educational work beforehand. So that's the gamut of what we do, but the real crux of what we do is the education part.
Let's talk broadly about exports. Last year, we came off a record year for U.S. beef exports. How are we doing so far this year, and what markets appear to be particularly hot?
Yeah, exactly right, Kevin. Last year was a record, a little over $6 billion in sales. This year, we're off to a good start. Through February, we're up about 12% on value, 6% on volume. So that value number is a little over $1 billion. So it's good news, especially considering we're a little bit shorter on numbers right now. In production, we're still looking pretty good through February. It's being led by our two biggest markets, Mexico and Japan, both up about 30%, and things are going well there. Other markets that are contributing include Hong Kong. Central South America continues to be strong. But I think the real key, if you look at the numbers, is the value per head that we're contributing. We're up at $277 in the month of February. So, that's really what matters to producers, I think, and we're excited about that. And the prospects for growth continue, with increasing populations and increasing GDPs, declining self-sufficiencies in some of these markets, like a market like Japan. They're reliant on imports. So I think things are still looking pretty good.
That's great news and real money for all of us involved in the beef cattle industry. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you.
To learn more about the work of USMEF and U.S. beef exports, visit their website at usmef.org, or you can visit our website at cattleman2cattleman.org. Still ahead on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
Implants are the most underrated return of any tool that we have in the cattle industry.
We'll hear from experts on the value of implanting cattle, plus more generational transfer of ranching assets as we visit the R.A. Brown Ranch in Texas. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You're watching NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman on RFD TV.
Here, 210.11. I'm at 210.11. Yes! Joe. Todd. How'd you do? Oh, not bad.
See what you have to gain at thelongrangelook.com.
To truck guys, the truck is everything. And when you put them in charge of making an unbeatable truck, good things happen. This is the Ram 1500, the 2014 Motor Trend Truck of the Year. And first ever back-to-back winner. Guts, glory, Ram.
To stay up to date on beef industry news and the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, check out beefusa.org. You'll find news on both the Federation of State Beef Councils and the work of NCBA on Capitol Hill. Plus, link to NCBA programs like the blog, Beltway Beef, updates on the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, and the latest from NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. Connect today at beefusa.org.
There are few things more important to cattlemen and women than high-quality feed. Quality starts with getting the crop cut and baled quickly and correctly. First-generation cattle and hay producer Scott Ricks has relied on his tractor and his dealer as a cornerstone in the building of a first-class operation. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Brian Baxter traveled to Texas to find out how top-notch machinery has helped make this operation so successful.
We run what I would call a high-density cow-calf operation. That is that we run pretty high density numbers of cows per acre, and we do that by maintaining really just improved grasses everywhere we go. We try to calve usually early in February so that by the time the calves are able to use some of the nutrition from the grasses that we have, that they're able to take advantage of that.
Scott Ricks relies on high-quality hay and forage to see his cow herd through the winter. That means getting the crop cut and baled in the most efficient manner possible. Ricks has relied on his New Holland tractor not just for his hay operation, but for all his ranch responsibilities.
Quality is obviously got to be your first priority. You spend a lot of money, you invest a lot of money in that hay crop, and you want to do the very best that you can. That way it translates into greater gain for your animals, quicker rebreeding. So I would just encourage them to make the investment in whatever they feel they need to turn out that best hay crop. For me, it's having New Holland equipment that I can rely on, that's easy to use, that's safe. The auto command transmission for me is just really a blessing. And you have equipment that you can rely on. You don't want to be out there in the hayfield and then have something break down on you.
When it comes to daily chores on his operation, Ricks needs to depend on a tractor that's safe and reliable for everyone involved with getting the work done.
I chose the Auto Command tractor because, quite honestly, I just love it. It is just so easy to use. I needed a tractor that my wife could use, that my daughter could use, that if I had someone helping me for a day that I could put in there and feel confident that they would feel safe using the tractor and that they would be able to use the tractor. And that's really what led me to choose that tractor.
CVT stands for Continuously Variable Transmission. CVTs are ideal for cattlemen because you're going to be knocking down hay, you're going to be putting up hay, you're going to be moving hay and doing material handling. In today's CVT tractors, you get a whole host of features that tie in with the transmission to make you most productive. The infinite speed selection and the programmability of the transmission is going to allow you to be more productive.
New Holland's Auto Command transmission is a smart option for today's progressive cattlemen. New Holland first introduced the CVT on high horsepower tractors and applied the same design to a smaller tractor that's ideal for cattlemen.
Now, as opposed to a traditional transmission where gears are used, what a CVT allows you to do is to have infinite speed selection. And that is critical for haying applications as well as loader work because, you know, if you've got a gear transmission and you're out in the field, sometimes you don't have that right gear to match your field conditions to make sure that you're the most productive you can be. With the CVT, especially when you're running your disc mower conditioner or your round baler, you're able to set the RPMs specifically 540 or 1000 RPM to match your implement, but then to dial in the speed to perfectly match the ground conditions to make sure that you're most effective and productive in your applications.
Cattlemen spend a lot of time in the tractor seat doing their daily chores. That's why New Holland put extra focus on cab comfort and controls for Auto Command tractors.
The controls are laid out very nicely. The multifunction arm is very handy to control tractor speed if you want to slow down or speed up. And on that same multifunction arm are a lot of the switches that you use frequently, like your hydraulics or even your shuttle. They're all just located right there that you can actuate with your thumb.
So when we're talking CVT transmissions, whether it's New Holland's Auto Command or a competitive CVT transmission, one thing that's universal is ease of operation. We've really had leaps and bounds with regards to how comfortable and easy it is to operate the tractor to allow cattlemen to get the most out of their day. So whether you're talking in the case of the New Holland with its Sidewinder 2 adjustable console that allows you to place controls right where you want them. So after a long day of knocking down, putting up hay, you're still refreshed and comfortable. To the Command Grip controller, which gives you fingertip access to 8 of the most commonly used controls. Again, we thought of the operator, we've thought of not only safety with the CVT, but also operational comfort to allow them to be the most productive they can out in the field.
Just as important as the tractor itself is making certain the machine is properly maintained and ready to go in the field. To do that, dealer support can be crucial, especially during a busy hay season.
Down here in Texas, our weather changes so quickly. We can be nice and sunny and have storms all of a sudden get on the forecast. And so if I have downtime, then I really put my entire crop at risk. And so having good dealer support is just key for me to make sure that I keep running and get the hay in the barns or the hay put up at the appropriate time.
As many times simple maintenance prevents a very expensive repair. Many people forget their coolant doesn't last forever. I've had customers come in with coolant that's 10 years old in their system. People forget to check, make sure the radiator's clean from debris, and it'll collect dust and debris in there. If they're using a four-wheel drive tractor in the off season, they've got their stops removed, and when they go to doing hay, you don't want to turn too short.
In addition to keeping your equipment well maintained, another key to success is fully understanding the capability of your equipment.
I think the critical thing here is to know what your CVT tractor is capable of. Before you go out in the field, and even take a refresher each spring before you go out, because CVT transmissions in modern tractors have a lot of things that will help with your productivity.
The other issue is safety. You know, this tractor, when you're backing up to an implement, if I need to move a 1/4 of an inch, I can move a 1/4 of an inch. If I'm unloading pallets with the front end loader, and I need to just very carefully move that tractor forward or backwards, I can do that very simply, and it's just so much safer. And so I really appreciate that. And of course, the most important reason is that my wife loves it. And we all know when a happy wife, or a wife is happy, that's good for everybody.
Reporting from Belleville, Texas, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
New Holland Agriculture offers outstanding discounts to NCBA members. To learn more about those discounts, visit beefusa.org or your local New Holland dealer. Still ahead on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, we'll talk with Donald Brown of the R.A. Brown Ranch about passing the operation on to the next generation. Stay with us.
When it comes to your land, it pays to be smart. At New Holland, smart means giving you a wide range of options to fit your needs, like smooth cutting, plug-free conditioning, and versatility. Smart means putting more hay in the bale and leaving less in the field. It also means providing exceptional after-sales support and growing a legacy that goes far beyond equipment. That's New Holland Smart. Visit your local New Holland dealer today.
I'm Sheila Carges. This is my husband Brock. We have two girls, Karina and Jessica. Both girls can pull cattle, doctor, process anything that we need them to do.
Using products that help keep the calves healthy, it helps my parents to be less stressful, it helps them to be at home more, and it helps pay more bills when you don't have to worry about sick cattle.
I'd say 99% of our cattle are high risk.
We've never seen a response due to a metaphylaxis like we have with the Draxxin. I think Draxxin has a major role in any operation as far as your viability and your long-term outlook.
And how do you quantify having a peace of mind to take a vacation for a week or leave work early to go watch a basketball game? You can't quantify that.
Important safety information for Draxxin. Draxxin has a pre-slaughter withdrawal time of 18 days. Do not use in dairy cattle 20 months of age or older. Effects on reproductive performance, pregnancy, and lactation have not been determined.
Welcome back. We're continuing our segment on generational transfer here at the R.A. Brown Ranch. And with me now is Donald Brown. Donald, thanks for spending a few minutes with us today.
Absolutely, thank you.
Well, the first question I have for you is, what was your immediate reaction after working all your life alongside all your brothers and sisters and family when Mom and Dad came and said, hey, it's time to split up the ranch?
It was a surprise to me. You know, we had done some financial planning years ago with some of the land, but as far as dividing it out to the 4 kids, I was a bit surprised.
So when your folks came to you and gave you the assignment to devise a plan for splitting up the ranch, how did you and your siblings approach that?
Well, it was interesting. You know, Dad said, all right, we're going to divide up the ranch, and you know, you're more involved in the seed stock, so I think you'll get that, and Jody's more involved in the farming, I think we'll give him that. And Mom said, no, wait just a minute. We're giving this to them. Let's let them decide. And so I thought it was great wisdom on Mom's behalf. And it worked out well. Now, you know, it was a bit
challenging.
Yeah, you know, to sit together and divide up a ranch that's been in the family now 5 generations. Yeah. But it was amazing and it worked well, and we divided it up, and dividing the land was actually the easiest part.
So as you and your siblings began that process, was it just you and your siblings involved, or did you involve the entire family?
Mom and Dad just wanted the 4 of us kids in there to divide up the land. And so that's the way we did it. And, you know, we met several times. We started each meeting with a prayer, and we analyzed the situation, and we didn't make it hastily. We would meet, we would wait, we would sleep on it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. And it all worked out very, very well.
Donald, tell us this. What were some of the challenges as you and your siblings walked through this process?
Well, you know, anytime you start talking about the end of someone's life and passing it on, it's not a comfortable discussion. But Mom and Dad started that conversation, which made it a whole lot easier for us. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, Mom and Dad are in excellent health, and you know, they just said, we want to pass this on now while we can each of you enjoy and pursue your dreams with your families and use your gifts and talents and interests. And so we're blessed by that. I don't know what it's like to lose a parent. I can't imagine going through this process of dividing up the family business along with the emotional drain of a loss of a loved one. And so, it's challenging, but I think it's so much easier to do it without that
extra burden.
Absolutely, without that burden, and being able to do it with clear mind, and mom and dad right there in case we need them to ask a question.
To referee.
That's right. So, I think it's important. One of the things that, mom has always instilled in us in love. And that was very important as we went through this process. I can still remember as a child two things. One, mom teaching us about 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Mm-hmm. And that ends with, these three things remain.
But the greatest of these?
Faith, hope, and love. But you're right, the greatest of these is love.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I was remembering just this morning as I pulled out of the ranch entrance and onto the highway is I remember all four of us kids in the vehicle on Sunday mornings headed to town. Mm-hmm. And every time when we would turn by the ranch sign, Dad would look around and he'd say, "I sure love my family." Mm. And those words just echo in my mind. And so they taught that to us from an early age. Mm. And I think that helped us in this process of dividing it up and keeping peace in the family, because that was higher priority than who gets this or who gets that. I think my brother Rob A. had some really good wisdom. He said, if any of us get exactly what we want, mm-hmm. it's probably not fair.
Donald, looking back on the process, is there anything you'd do differently?
Looking back, I can't think of anything I would do differently. For us, it just worked out great. We weren't rushed. Mom and Dad kind of gave us their plans that they were ready to start doing the process, but it wasn't a rushed situation. We were able to meet. Even though not all of us live right here on the ranch, we would meet once a month and discuss how we're going to divide this thing up, what we'll do with the land, what to do with the cattle, what to do with the minerals, all of those different things, and it worked out very well. I don't think I'd change a thing.
Well, Donald, this is the Cattleman to Cattleman show, so I'd like to ask you a little bit about dividing the cattle. We discussed how you approached the land division, but dividing a set of registered seed stock that you've spent generations building is an emotional decision. Tell us about that.
We did the land first, and that was easy. The cattle, I've been back here on the ranch for 20-something years, working side by side with Dad on the seed stock side. And that's my passion. That's Kelly and I's passion, is seed stock. My older siblings, my two sisters and my brother, they love commercial cattle, they love stocker cattle, and they're good at it. That's their passion. That's what they want to do. Seed stock's not really their interest. And so as we looked at doing the cattle, what are we going to do? We could divide them up 4 ways. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be hard with 4 different breeds and not equal numbers of breeds and different values of the cattle. How do we divide them up? Since my siblings were more interested in commercial cattle, we talked about it and decided, one, Mom and Dad have poured their whole life into the seed stock program. We've been raising seed stock cattle since the 1890s. Why don't we let their life legacy live on through these cows as registered seed stock to the industry and be a blessing to the industry? And with that, help the cattle bring great value for what their seed stock value would be worth. And then if some of the family wants to buy a few out of the sale, that's fine. And we were very transparent by that. And then, so our hope was the cattle would live on, the industry live on with those cattle, Mom and Dad's legacy live on through the cattle, and that our siblings would probably have more money in their pockets to buy commercial cattle to stock their part of the ranch. And it worked out very well.
Tell us about some of the changes and some of the challenges from transitioning from a large multi-family operation to individual operators of your own ranch.
There are a lot of things that I hadn't done here on the ranch. My sister Betsy had always done the accounting. And so now Kelly and I are like, oh my goodness, there's a lot we have to learn. and so that was one of the challenging things in that transition is, we're downsizing, we don't have as many cattle, we don't have and yet here Kelly and I, we're still going to sell 600 bulls each October. And we're doing that with the help of our cooperator team and because Mom and Dad gave us enough lead time to do some planning where we could buy some commercial cows, put embryos from our best donor cows, and rebuild the cow herd. Sure. And so it's worked out very well.
So what are your plans for the future?
Well, Kelly and I, we want to continue to be right here on the ranch in the house where we all grew up at our headquarters, keep having bull sales every fall. And I think as someone coined years ago, we want to keep raising cows, kids, and quarter horses.
Now looking forward 10 years from now, how will you gauge the success of the decisions you've made?
10 years from now, success to me will be defined if all our families are still doing what we love to do, and we still have peace in the family, and we are a family. That to me is success.
Thank you, Donald, for all your candor and your insight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll be back right after this.
This is yours, and so is what grows there. Not theirs or theirs, yours. You need this to fight this and this to grow more this. Because the more of this you feed them, the less this you spend on that, which leaves more of this here. Don't let them take this from you. Chaparral takes care of weeds and brush, and that's that.
Tough trailers built for tough country. Big Ben Trailers manufactures a different kind of trailer, one that's built to put up with the rough conditions found on the ranch. Rugged build using heavy gauge powder coated steel and a 2x4 rectangle tube frame. There's a 1-inch gap between the side and floor, so there's no place for water or manure to accumulate and rust. Big Ben trailers are loaded with standard features: a lever action hitch, a 3-foot escape gate and a middle sorting gate, rhino lining along the front edges, and a receiver hitch to tow another trailer, chute, or other equipment. Tough and practical. That's Big Ben Trailers, designed and built by a working cattleman. You can rely on and trust Big Ben Trailers for their durability and convenient features. Reasonably priced for any rancher to afford. For a list of dealers and other design features, visit BigBenTrailers.com. Big Ben Trailers, built cattlemen tough.
Welcome back to Cattleman. I'm Kevin Ochsner. Winter can take its toll on cattle feeding country. Feed yard staff work night and day to keep pens clean and cattle comfortable, despite the tough weather conditions. Reporter Brian Baxter has more from the Midwest.
The cattle feeding business is never an easy one, but this last winter proved tough for even the most seasoned cattlemen.
This is the toughest winter on record. I believe there was they set a new record for somewhere over 90 days where the temperature did not go above 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course, from the viewpoint of cattle closeouts, that's a devastating winter.
Tom Peters is a consulting nutritionist for Winter Feed Yard in Akron, Iowa, and says it was tough watching both cattle and workers struggle through those winter months. Hundreds of miles away in Nebraska, cattlemen were facing a very similar experience.
I would rank it, I've been doing this for 34 years and can remember a few years prior to that, so I'm saying it was probably our worst winter, or in the top 5 of our worst winters that I can remember in the last 40 years.
It was a very difficult winter in northeast Nebraska. We had higher than expected an average snowfall, and then very, very cold, wet temperatures. Straight line winds days on end, which caused a lot of drifting, which was probably the biggest problem that we had. It was difficult even to get to the feed yard some days.
But despite their geographical differences, these cattlemen all had the same concerns: caring for their crew, their cattle, and keeping their animals on course.
Production was decreased, gains were decreased. It was extremely difficult on the help, the labor, the management. There were guys that were staying the night at the feed yards because they were concerned they wouldn't be able to get back the next day, driving home payloaders just so they can dig their way back to the feed yards because of the drifting.
Our cost of gains and the cattle rate of gains slowed tremendously. Pen conditions got very bad, and when that happens, our dry matter conversions go up and our cost of gains go up and our health becomes an issue.
All of our objectives switched that day to let's make sure cattle get fed. And it takes a lot of our other daily chores, it rolls them down the kiosk for importance. Implanting, just trying to keep cattle fed and healthy is our objective at that point.
With shared concerns, these cattlemen were relieved to have one less thing to worry about because of their use of a stage-release implant, Revelor XS by Merck Animal Health.
We use the extended implant Revelor XS for these calves. They come through the chute. It gives us the opportunity when you use the extended day to know when our out date is more accurately, change your out date if you have good performance, or in winter like this where all of a sudden you have to add 30, 40 days to the pen of cattle, they're not out.
We try not to miss any reimplant windows. I mean, that's that's just something we just don't want to do. Bringing up implants that will last 140 to 210, 220 days is a tremendous asset to us if we can keep from having to bring cattle up during those time periods where it's not very feasible to do that. Then that makes it a lot easier for everybody. The job just becomes a lot easier for that reason.
In addition to peace of mind, not having to worry about re-implanting also saves time and money. Revelor XS is a management tool that provides marketing flexibility and a return on investment.
Implants are the most underrated return of any tool that we have in the cattle industry. There's no excuse for missing. There is no excuse for not having a terminal implant. We take all the other tools in our repertoire, and they may be a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% return, or 200, 300% return. With implanting, when you look at the dollars that you can get back, you cannot erase that. That return may be 20 to 1, and it often is.
We do have producers using Revelor XS. Many of them feel like they see the advantage of decreased labor, some marketing opportunities with XS in terms of having their window a little bit wider for the marketing.
You have to use the tools that are available to you to do the best job you can possibly do. Made my job easier, has made my job easier.
And these producers agree. Implants, especially Revelor XS, make sense in today's complex cattle industry.
It's just one of those things that have come along that you'd wished had come along a long time ago, and is finally here, and darn sure want to use it.
I think they need to, first of all, sit down with their nutritionist, their veterinarian, and try to best decide what worked for their operation, because there are so many variables. It is a valuable tool in a lot of operations. We've talked about the labor issues, which is really important. We've talked about the cattle handling. One thing we haven't mentioned much is cattle safety and welfare and things of that nature. Running big cattle through does have its disadvantages because it could be injury, there's stress on the cattle, things like that. So there are a lot of things to consider with a product like this, and it certainly fits into many operations.
There are a lot of great products out there. I preferentially still use an intermediate dose of the Revelor followed by Revelor S as my terminal implant. And yet there's some pens that we know are going to be on feed from 165 to 200 days, and we just use the XS because we know it gives us so much more flexibility. We also know that we will not be needing those cattle to come back through the chute. And if we don't have to bring the cattle back through the chute, it costs us a lot in performance and activity and manpower.
Reporting from the Midwest, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
For details on how you can start an implant program on your operation, contact our friends at Merck at their website, mercanimalhealthusa.com. Or you can also visit our website, that's cattlemantocattleman.org. We'll be right back right after this.
We stand for what we believe in. We believe in you. It's more than a job. It's your way of life. Who you are, where you live, and what you do. The way you treat your cattle, your family, your employees, and your neighbors. The water you drink, the air you breathe, and the ground you walk on. What you do every day gives families something to gather around every night. It's about doing what's right for your cattle, your land, your community, and your business. It's your livelihood, and it means as much to us as it does to you. We all believe in responsible beef. Let's stand together at responsiblebeef.com.
Hi there, I'm Joey.
And I'm Rory, and welcome to our farm outside Nashville, Tennessee. When we go to work, whether it's on tour or here at home, we wear the West.
That's right. Whether it's that perfect snap shirt or that perfect pair of boots, when you wear Roper, you wear the West.
Learn more about us, Joey and Rory, and about Roper Western Wear at eroper.com.
Telling the truth and being real and feeding my family a home-cooked meal, that's important to me. That's important to me. And planting the garden and watching it grow.
NCBA's annual legislative conference was held at the beginning of April and gave producers a chance to meet with their U.S. representatives and senators about a variety of issues affecting the livestock industry. We caught up with some of the NCBA's national producer leaders to get their thoughts on the current mood of cattlemen.
Things are pretty positive right now. We're enjoying some of the best market conditions that we've really ever had in the beef industry. And so folks are building equity in their operations, feeling pretty good about their businesses. Of course, depending on where you go, there's some people that have been pretty stretched out on rain and are still in drought mode. So it's restricting some of the expansion they'd like to do with their herds, or even being able to maintain the cow herds that they've had historically. So, but I think despite the droughts in some areas, there's a lot of places that are getting good rains, and even with the reduced cattle numbers, people are making better profits, and overall just pretty positive about the industry going forward.
Well, really the mood is upbeat. I think for a lot of parts of a lot of our producers, a lot of parts of the U.S., the drought situation's improved. We're going to have the feed and forage we need. We know there are some parts still tough, but that's improved, and our cattle market is in good shape, and there are excellent opportunities for us as we develop trade. So that mood is good. I think the mood back here is how can we ensure we can have a successful industry and worry about the regulatory and legislative hurdles that might be put in the way of our successful cattle production.
Well, I think it's optimistic, but somewhat guarded. You know, we haven't really broken the drought, the severe drought in the Southwest and the Midwest, now the Far West, the last 3 years. So people are they're very happy for the prices they have, but I think we also have to realize that we haven't had quite the moisture to bring us back to where we want to be. But you do see an optimism out there with these producers that we possibly could grow the cow herd, and we want to stabilize that beef production because we don't want to lose any market share. The one nice thing about this, typically when you face droughts, you sell cattle into a lower market, but because we've got excellent demand for our product, actually an increasing demand for our product, we're really seeing some benefits out there right now.
The general mood of our ranchers this week on the Hill is very upbeat. Cattle prices are near record highs. The weather is still problematic in some parts of the country, like where I'm from California, we're still in the drought, but we've got moisture in some parts of the country, so the mood for our ranchers here in DC this week is very positive, and we've got some good messages and some good asks for our politicians here in town. So we're excited to tell our story out on Capitol Hill and form those relationships with our congressmen and senators because it's important for the future.
We'll have a full report on the legislative conference on next week's show. But remember, you can stay on top of the latest policy issues affecting our industry by becoming a member of NCBA. Joining is easy. Just call 1-866-USA-BEEF or visit the website beefusa.org. Stick around. It's time for another visit with our good friend Baxter Black right after this.
Well, I think a rancher has to be a steward of the land. There's nobody else that can take care of land better than a rancher. When we switched over to the Purina products, it was a step in the right direction.
The difference we see in the cattle is the consistency of their nutrition.
The cattle hold their condition a lot better throughout the whole year.
It does make a difference that we can see, day in and day out.
Whether you're feeding cattle, milking cows, or baling hay, the work on your farm is never done. Which is why you need equipment that works as hard as you do. Get the efficiency and versatility you need with Case IH. From farm-all compact and utility tractors to balers and mowers, all Case IH equipment is designed with one thing in mind: getting the job done. To learn more, visit caseih.com/livestock.
We know who made that hitch. We know who cut the steel, who milled the ball, and who welded the seams. We know who tested, measured, and checked. We even know who thought the whole thing up. We're B&W, and we know your hitch. Because we don't make them halfway around the world. We make them all right here. B&W. Trusted.
Working your cattle just got easier. Introducing the new Vet Gun delivery system, a new way to apply topical insecticides to your cattle. The Vet Gun lets you remotely treat cattle with effective parasite control, so you can do it from an ATV, on horseback, or just walking among the herd. It's that simple. The proven topical insecticide AML Vet Cap is used with the Vet Gun. It works fast to control horn flies and lice while minimizing stress on your cattle. Fast, easy, effective. Vet Gun. Check with your animal health supplier for availability.
Triangles have a unique place in our world. Engineers use them to build bridges. Pythagoras used it to create his theorem, and the shortstop uses it to make a double play. Triangles strengthen structures. They take three straight lines going nowhere and form a bond that can withstand great pressure. Now, I get to see this cohesive combination in another triangle: woman, horse, child. It's really evident when the child has Down syndrome or multiple sclerosis or any other disability that restricts their possibilities. In a lot of these equine therapeutic riding programs that I've visited, women are the predominant hands-on helpers in the arena. To be successful, a mutual trust has to be established. See, a woman introduces the child to the horse, and this allows the child to give the horse the benefit of the doubt, because the woman trusts the horse and the child trusts the woman. When the child is set up on a horse's back, it's really still in his mother's arms, ready to be rescued if need be. And through a long progression of walks around the arena, the child's faith increases in the horse, and eventually the child will trust it. So the triangle is complete. We've connected the woman to the child, to the horse, and back to the woman. And it's especially obvious at any equine therapeutic riding center. Check it out for yourself. You'll see small islands of woman, horse, child. Concentrate on one of those triangles, and then imagine the child on the horse is yours. You become hypersensitive to the slightest movement, be it protective or encouraging or loving. And even the smallest step in this magic triangle performance going on in the arena becomes magnified. Successes are marked in the tiniest gesture and the slightest touch and the tentative smile and the skip of a heartbeat. And through the cloud that puts you in their triangle, you hear the softest of voices saying, "It's all right. He won't hurt you." This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks for that lesson in geometry, Baxter. Well said. Stay with us. We'll have more right after this.
This isn't a job, it's a calling. Your hard work helps feed the world. Being linked to those who care for the land is our calling. For more than 175 years, John Deere has been a proud partner of the cattle business. That's why we bring you special NCBA member discounts, so you can get the right equipment, strong, rugged, versatile, and ready to work hard. Talk to your John Deere dealer to learn more about your NCBA member discounts. John Deere, committed to the land, committed to your success.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. It's time now for this week's Legacy Photos, submitted by ranching families from around the country. Let's take a look. You can send us your pictures of your farm or ranch by visiting our website, cattlemantocattleman.org. Include your ranch or farm name and your hometown, and we may use them on a future episode. Next week on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, we'll bring you an update on NCBA's legislative conference in Washington, D.C. Plus, find out about all the exciting benefits available to members of NCBA and a closer look at the new documentary Farmland and what that means for all of us in agriculture. All that and much, much more, including another visit with our friend Baxter Black. Well, that's our time for this week's edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you right back here next week on RFD TV.